Coldwater Creek and the radioactive waste dumped there have been threatening neighborhoods since the 1940s. The impacts continue today, even affecting an elementary school.
This is the radioactive material that initially built the Manhattan bombs that were dropped in Japan. So World War II bomb making material. This is the most radioactive yellow cake that was used.
It created tons and tons of waste, and unfortunately it was dispersed throughout North County.
Hazelwood School District believes students and staff are safe. However, it wants to be prepared for any outcome. If the test results indicate an unsafe level of radioactive material, Jana Elementary will convert to all virtual for the first semester of the school year.
An ADOS dude, there was an ADOS dude named Bill something, Bill the Icon.
Bring all the dirty laundry.
So what's up, guys? I wanted to get into this story here out of Missouri. Came across this story last month. As you can see, the byline, it's dated October 18th, 2022. It was a very disturbing story. This was very disturbing to me. It incensed me to a very high degree when I came across this story. It involves a finding of radioactive waste in a local Florissant, Missouri elementary school, Jana Elementary School. As you can see here. And what it is, as you can see here in the article, I'll read a little bit of the article. It says that radioactive waste in a creek that meanders through part of suburban St. Louis has long been suspected of causing rare cancers and other health problems for residents who live nearby. Now, new studies suggest Coldwater Creek also has caused contamination around and perhaps inside a grade school. Students are still attending Jana Elementary School in Florissant, Missouri, despite a private company's new report that found radioactive material far above the expected level for the school that sits within Coldwater Creek's floodplain. The Hazelwood School Board plans to meet in closed session Tuesday night to discuss what should be done next. Contamination was found in classrooms, the library, in the HVAC system, and on the playground in nearby fields, according to a report from Boston Chemical Data Corp. The study, completed earlier this month, was performed on behalf of law firms involved in a class action lawsuit, one of many seeking compensation for those who blame illness or death on living near the creek. And again, even with the fact that students are still attending this school is problematic for me. Just makes me think about the long history of environmental racism that we do have and experienced in this country as Black people. This is part of the systemic racism, prejudice, and oppression, because this is one of many cases. And this is clearly a case in which people knew that they were being exposed and they were being made ill and perhaps even meeting an early demise due to the contamination surrounding Coldwater Creek. And here we're going to go ahead and get into the specifics of what they found. The Boston Chemical study cited levels of radioactive isotope lead-210 that were 22 times the expected level on the kindergarten playground. It also found high levels of polonium, radium, and other material in various places throughout the school. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says high levels of radiation can increase the risk of cancer, while high levels of lead can impact a child's development and attention span. And this was something that we went through in the 60s and 70s, or 50s, when they were using lead paint, specifically in a lot of project housing throughout the country. The lead paint chips or peels off the wall Kids are exposed to lead. Children put things in their mouth. They eat pieces of lead paint, and they're damaged slowly over a period of time, a lot of times irreversibly. So they're saying here that remedial measures are appropriate to reduce exposures to radioactive materials for users of the school building and grounds, but are complicated by the potential for recontamination due to the flooding of the contaminated Coldwater Creek, of course. The private study follows an examination by the Army Corps of Engineers that found radioactive contamination in a field near the school. The Corps study did not examine the playground or the school's interior. Safety is always our top priority, and we're actively discussing the implications of the finding, a statement from the district read. The Board of Education will be consulting with attorneys and experts in this area of testing to determine next steps. And another thing that was troubling, I did a quick demographic search on Jana Elementary and found out that the school is 82.9 or 83% Black or African American. Of course, this was expected before I even looked into that demographic fact. 82.9% African American. And I did a quick search for some statistics relating to these types of incidents with African Americans being exposed to environmental contamination, chemical hazardous waste, radioactive materials and such. And this was an old study from 1987 and it was published by the United Church of Christ Commission for Racial Justice, which was headed up by Benjamin Chavis at the time of NAACP history. He was president of the NAACP at some time. But this study again, published in 1987, among others, it says race proved to be the most significant among variables tested in association with the location of commercial hazardous waste facilities. And this represented a consistent national pattern. It says communities with the greatest number of commercial hazardous waste facilities had the highest composition of racial and ethnic residents. In communities with 2 or more facilities, or one of the nation's 5 largest landfills, the average minority percentage of the population was more than 3 times that of communities without facilities. And that breaks down to 38% versus 12%. Another stat that jumped out at me, it says that 3 out of every 5 Black and Hispanic Americans lived in communities with uncontrolled toxic waste sites, and that more than 15 million Blacks lived in communities with 1 or more uncontrolled toxic waste site. And Blacks were heavily overrepresented in the populations of metropolitan areas with the largest number of uncontrolled toxic waste sites. And these areas include Memphis, Tennessee with 173 sites, St. Louis, Missouri with 160 sites, Houston, Texas with 152 sites, Cleveland, Ohio with 106 sites, Chicago, Illinois with 103 sites, and Atlanta, Georgia with 94 sites. And again, this was in 1987. And not surprisingly, St. Louis, Missouri is on this list. Jana Elementary is in Florissant, which is right outside or a suburb of St. Louis. So this is a historic, systemic problem. The liberals are always talking about a Green New Deal, but they always want to avoid reparations talk for African Americans. This is just another clear example of the need for that justice claim to be met for injuries occurring up until this very day. This is not a game. They are using every and any means available to them to do damage to the black community, and it's systemic. These are not one-off situations. I can pull up numerous articles that prove my point. You know, this is something that is going on to this very day. A lot of times regulations, if there are any, they're very lax, and they fail to protect the public from the imminent dangers posed by these commercial waste dumps or these landfills or these remnants of toxic chemicals that have spilled into local waterways and have infected and contaminated schools, buildings, and exposing people unknowingly to chemicals and to waste that can physically, mentally, and permanently damage, if not kill you. So yeah, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. Look into this story, hop down in the comment section, let me know what you think. If there are any other instances of this type of environmental systemic racism in your area, because this is just another thing to add to the list as we present our justice claim for reparations. It's on every level, every area of people activity, as Dr. Francis Cress Welsing would say. So yeah, smash like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks to all my new subscribers. We recently hit over 4,000. Hopefully we'll be hitting 5,000 pretty soon. But again, thank you, and I salute everybody who smashed subscribe, everybody who watched the video. Thank you.
Huh?